Hi, this is Matthew Kenneally, and this is what I learned about being a critical reader in our experiencing literature class. The reader response theory, I thought this was an awesome tool that really made me understand what I was reading, and it made me look a little deeper into what I was reading. Um, I liked how I had never used it before, and the questions we had to answer were just difficult enough where we weren't allowed to just skim through the passages. We had to read it, and it really made us and it made me understand and try to think about what was actually being said in the passages, which I really liked. The example that I used was the story of Hills Like White Elephants. I used specifically the Your Response and Reading Strategy section. And in the Your Response section, I talked about the message and the theme. And I think without reading it a second time, which is what I talked about in the reading strategies part, I wouldn't have picked up on the theme. So I think that just alone, the your response section made me a better reader. Not even let alone the entire page that we had to do, which I really think helped me in the long run. Not even just with the class, I think in general. The second slide I have is the reading strategies. I think two things that really helped me throughout the course were reading slowly and to reread. Reading slowly really came from putting all of distractions aside and just trying to focus on what I had to do for 20, 30 minutes, however long it may be. And I think the slower I read, the more I understood. And the second strategy, the more times I reread it, as it might be tedious and annoying sometimes, the more I understood it. So they kind of coincide with each other, and I think that without the two, I probably wouldn't have understood any stories, and I would have really struggled in the class. And these were two tips that I had in the past, but I didn't really follow. I kind of just skimmed through things and kind of just slid by because I was able to. And I think the class really made me understand what it meant to read and not just look at some words and just think I get it and say that I get it, which was important. The example that I picked was the A and P story. I read this last year. I think it was last fall, and I think reading it a second time, I picked up on some things and I was like, wow, I either just don't remember that or I must have just not read it properly and I must have skimmed through it. And I think that rereading something, no matter how stressful it is and under how much time you have, I think you're always going to pick up on something that you didn't pick up before. So I think it's a tool that everyone should use. And yeah, it might be annoying sometimes, but it helps. And I'm appreciative that we had that list of strategies to help us out. The digital tool application, I really liked how the online journaling was private and only the teacher was able to see it, and it kind of let me specifically like let loose in my writing and I could say what I wanted to, but I also liked the discussion board portion where I was able to reply to my classmates and see what they had to say, and they were able to reply back, and we kind of about like bounce off ideas off of one another's papers, which I thought is important because no matter where you work, you're always going to be working with someone else. Nothing's ever just like a solo job. So being able to see someone else's work too was beneficial to mine being the best it could be. Google Docs, I wish we used it a little bit more. I wish we had like some sort of project where we could have had like groups and we could have had like a Google Docs presentation or something like that. I think it would have been cool and it would have made us like get in contact with each other a little bit more. But I like this assignment. It was all this stuff is new. The Screenomatic and the the Google Slide share thing that we're doing, and I think it's interesting and it works. I think it's awesome. I never knew that you could record your voice over the slides or anything like that and submit it. And I really think that it's a cool tool to, and it's nice to get us using some different technology because I think no matter how bad we want to like stay off our phones and computers, I think technology is only going to become more prevalent in the next year or so, and I think being able to use other types of technology and other platforms is beneficial to us, and and I'm glad that we were able to do it. And I think as a final project, it makes it like bigger. So it's going to be more important to some people. So they're going to pay attention more. And I think they're going to learn more, which has happened to me. The last one, the flip grid, I really like the flip grid. Sorry, and I used it last semester in marketing, and it was kind of like an optional thing, and I didn't really use it that much. I didn't want people like to see what I was saying, and he didn't really care too much about like if we did it or not. But I think that it was nice that this class was mandatory and we were graded for it, and it was timed because the timing thing was huge for me because if I couldn't meet the criteria, I felt like I didn't know the topic well enough, so it made me go back and reread it. So that was just another example of how like rereading and really understanding the story helped me a lot throughout the course. Connections I made actually two pretty big ones. Freshman seminar class, we had to read and write about a book that we were reading, and I wrote about the Breakfast Club, and I really picked up on some key examples and some traits about the characters, and I was able to actually write my final paper on what the characters were wearing, and I would have never picked up on that if I hadn't taken this class. I would have just said, "Oh, they're wearing a biker jacket and wealthy Ralph Lauren clothes and blah blah blah." I wouldn't have ever thought of that. I would have just said they're wearing normal clothes. But after being able to understand what critical reading means and actually looking into what they're wearing, and I was able to watch the movie too, which helped. I was able to pick up on some things, and I was able to write my final paper on that, which I thought was cool. Outside reading, I'm able to now like read on my own, and I was able to talk to my grandfather about some of the books he's read, but I'll talk about that in one of the later slides. But the big thing was my freshman seminar class, but that was an awesome connection, and my teacher really appreciated it too. Some of the challenges, I had some issues with my Mac computer with some of the Google Docs and the journals and some of that stuff. The formatting is weird. It's different on my computer for some reason. It's only my computer. I don't know if I don't have like the right software or something, but all of my I don't know what you could call it. Like data is different than like a Windows computer, so it was tough for me to submit things, but I got through it, and I think that was just like a me problem, but it was difficult at points. Just to say that. I think if you don't enjoy reading, the class was extremely difficult at the beginning. I hated reading, so I dreaded doing the class, and I would wait until Sunday night to do it. And I'm glad that towards the end I didn't do that because I didn't mind doing the class on Tuesday or Wednesday or whenever you would put up the next module, and I thought that was important for me to get it done, and I didn't dread doing my online class Sunday nights anymore. Another challenge was the random stories. I think a lot of people are going to complain about this because you can't please everyone with a random story, which is completely understandable. But it is difficult for me to gain interest on something that I don't care about and I didn't pick. But there's only a few stories. I think the Antigone one was one of the bigger ones. I read that last year and in high school, so reading it a third time, I just wasn't really interested in it to begin with. So reading it a third time wasn't the most fun for me, but I got through it and it was fine. And I think it was actually some of my best work. So there was always something positive to come out of it, no matter what, is what I got from it, basically. My most memorable experience with literature was the module 14, when we were able to pick out our own story. This was huge. This was like a huge like breaking point for me because we got to pick our own story, and I picked something that I was actually interested in, and I ended up writing some of the best work I think I've written all semester. And I wrote this long passage about the story and how much I enjoyed it, and then I submitted it and saw like everyone else posted like a couple sentences. I was like, wow, I really got carried away, but I kind of got lost in the story, and I enjoyed writing, and I didn't care how much I was writing about, and I didn't care how much time it was taking up, and it was nice to like put everything aside and like actually pay attention to this and understand it and mostly enjoy it, which was awesome to see because that's never really happened before with any type of story. And my grandfather, so I got to talk with my grandfather a lot, like I said, about some of the stories we read. He's been reading for probably 75, 80 years, and he's always busting my chops about reading, and it was nice to finally like I got to connect with him over something other than what we connect through now. So it was like a cool new experience for me, like being able to talk to him about books and reading because I know that's something that he loves to do, and it was nice to see him happy for me that I was actually understanding what I was reading, and I finally was able to admit to him that it wasn't so painstaking to sit down and read a book. My aha moment was like I kind of just said was how I like reading and writing, and it's not that big of a deal. But the the other thing that I haven't talked about was how an online class isn't easy. I thought this class would be like a breeze. It was online. I know some of my friends have taken online classes before, and they said it was like the easiest thing ever. So I was like, oh, this will be perfect. And this was like one of my tougher classes because it was something that I wasn't too interested in before, and I think it really made me space out my time. So my time management had to be good, and I had to care about what I was doing because if I was late by a minute, the work wasn't accepted, which was nice, which I don't really have in my other classes. I don't think. I think that the level of strictness was perfect in this class, and it made me say, okay, I need to do my work now, and I need to read this now, and this needs to be this long, and I need to really understand this to talk about it. And I really think that the level of difficulty and the amount of work and the time period of when we were allowed to do the work was perfect. And there's my works cited. I got most of my images from the Creative Commons website, except for the image about the book of Story of an Hour. That was from the internet, and I got the link and part of the works cited for that.